good evening. It's Wednesday night, and I'm your host on Unity News Network, Kate Shemirani. I've got a green screen on the floor, and I'm one that you pull up, a really expensive one. I've still not got my act together, so here I am in the Batcave. It's the room where it all happens. Anyway, you're here listening to me, and it's a bit of a week because there's a lot happening, and also I always try and learn something new all the time. And one of the things that I've been trying to learn more and more and more about is lymphomas. Where did they come from? Because they were unheard of before. I think it was 1978. They emerged the same time as HIV. So there's your first clue. One of my guests tonight, who is just fabulous, and I'd like to say she's really one of my closest friends because I don't have many, but she's one of my closest friends. And I was so delighted when I found out she'd left London and had moved down near me. But Simone Plout, who is a radiographer, she's author. She is author of papers, authors of several books. She's an expert health and safety witness, been fired from, I think, all her jobs, but fired because she doesn't keep her mouth shut, thank goodness. But I love having her trapped in my car, which I have done once, all the way to Bath and back, and we got stuck all through roadworks, but because she couldn't get out. I always learn something from her, so I find her the most riveting of company. So I from a work point of view, a learning point of view, and also from the point of view of socializing. And she's also, we trust her so much. She's also power of attorney for one of my daughters, who absolutely, well, both my daughters adore her. But one of the things we talked about was TB, how it disappeared. There used to be spinal TB, and TB would be treated with a certain mix of antibiotics, but all of a sudden it was reclassified as cancer. Well, that means it gets treated with lots of oncology drugs, which generates lots and lots of money. So we looked at all that, and I started to look at tumor markers. And we know that it's the pharmaceutical companies that come up with tumor markers and what they indicate. But all over PubMed and Cochrane, you can find studies literally telling you that you can't use them as a diagnostic tool, just like you can't use the PCR. But they do use them as diagnostic tools. They give you, you've got all these markers. So they then send you for much more invasive tests. And also and people think having an X-ray, having a scan, CT scan, MRI scan, or even a bone scan, it's nothing. Oh, well, it is. And we'll ask Simone, because she is a radiographer, all about that tonight, and how much radiation you're then exposed to. So that came as a bit of a revelation. And then to find out that certain markers have been used to indicate a disease, but now they use a different disease because it's got some of those markers in. And then you start to discover it's all a big fat lie. But going back to lymphomas, 1978, they started splicing sarcomas from chickens with the man-made feline infectious virus. So if anyone of you've got a cat and you're stupid enough to take it to be inoculated, they will give it FIV shot, and they call it cat AIDS. Well, it's actually man-made. It's nice of them, isn't it? It's man-made. It shouldn't come as any surprise to you. But in 1978, it was put on $10 million was put on the table to create a particular virus that would attack the lymphatic system in humans and destroy the ability of the body to fight anything. It would degrade you slowly. And there we are. Welcome in lymphoma. That's exactly what they did. And it would act like AIDS does. Now, HIV, just PCR tests, they took gays that were sleeping wild hours, doing drugs, drinking, not looking after themselves, having anal sex, which is really toxic, or swallowing it really toxic. It's supposed to be in the vagina, sorry. So they would present being unwell. Well, if I went on the RAS all the time, which I have done in my younger days, I've got unwell. And then they would have this piece of, oh yeah, it's HIV. And then when they presented with one of 29 pre-existing diseases, because they would put them on AZT, they would classify it as AIDS, leukocytopenia. And you know that it was Dr. Anthony Fauci who renamed leukocytopenia AIDS, almost like a dry run for COVID. So these things have always sort of been manipulated, but lymphoma is now getting to be very big and among the young. Glyphosate is attributed to it, but also we're seeing it since this COVID shot. Oh, and it just goes on and on and on. And the more you find out, incidentally, I've got the documents to what I've just told you in 1978 and how they created that and what their spec was. It was to kill you. It was to just degrade your body. That's exactly what it was for. So the more and more I find out, anyway, the entertainment just continues. So right hot off the press tonight, you know, I'm always calling it the National Homicide Service, and GP practices are all privately owned. So they have a business manager and a practice manager, and they buy their vaccines in bulk, cost price, and then they then, you know, send you all a text which costs 50 quid. They get 50 quid back for each text. And they have it all on their walls, don't they? Come get your flu shot, come get this shot, come get that shot. And each one of these shots that they give, when they then put their invoice in for the next year for their money, it's for the full amount. It's not for the bulk by cost price. So it's very lucrative to buy in, let's say it's a practice with 20,000 patients and you're buying in, I don't know, 10,000 flu shots, 10,000 COVID shots, 10,000 pneumonia shots, all your baby clinic shots. Yeah, they have baby clinics. Then all of the money that you make in, it stands to reason, doesn't it, that you would get as many people in as possible because you can put a bigger invoice in, which then gives you money for the next year. And also, there's a pot of money that when they don't refer out of house, that pot stays full. So every time they refer on, so let's say they get a patient coming in who's got the symptoms of an overactive thyroid, you really want to be doing thyroid stimulating hormone, T3, T4, antibodies. You want to be looking at cortisol levels, but they don't do any of that. They just do the TSH. Now, if they refer you out to an endocrinologist, then that comes out of that pot of money. So at the end of the year, if they've referred out not very much, there's more in that pot of money. Well, I should imagine that there's quite a lot of practices, possibly some practices with dubious doctors from, possibly overseas. But I can't say that because that would make me, I don't know what that would make me. It would make me bigoted or racist or just a truth teller. Anyway, there are GP practices where it's all about the money and they won't refer out when they really should. But it's all going tits up anyway, because the survival of general practice, this is hot off the press in the last couple of hours, is at breaking point, according to researchers who blamed a shifting model of care based on underfunding and growing societal health inequalities. The way in which general practice now operates has in some cases led to services becoming dehumanized. Oh, would that be a 5-minute appointment? You get an hour with an oncologist. 5 minutes. That's to talk you into your mustard gas and the rest of the crap. But you get 5 minutes with the GP. Becoming dehumanized, deprofessionalized, clinically compromised, unfulfilling, and unsafe, an analysis found. And it's very interesting because it actually states what we already know: population triage. Clinically compromised and dehumanized, a conveyor belt of algorithmic medicines by lower standard trainees. Don't forget, you've got your physician associates all coming. Well, the GPs have done it to themselves. I have absolutely no sympathy whatsoever, none at all. And if you know what I'm talking about, the NHS mandate, well, we could go on. It just becomes, more and more depressing. Anyway, a lovely midwife who came across my bow, she was great. Victoria, she what she told me that was going on in midwifery. And don't forget, they're employing all these overseas midwives who come with all their, entourage of kids, grandma, everybody. They can bring in all their dependents as well. And they get £1,000, they get their rent paid. They get to stay here. They get to claim on everything else. Often by the time they arrive here, they're pregnant. So they get to claim everything and have their babies here, which is then a British citizen, and da-da-da-da-da. This is happening. But the care that they're giving is going down the pan, and they're not going to say anything. Of course they're not. They're not going to jeopardise their job. Well, one midwife has actually nailed it. She found it all. The toxic culture found in damning nursing and midwifery. Council review, the public aren't safe. Now, she's going to be coming on the show. At the time, when she gave her leaving letter, if you will, and it's gone right to the very top, she listed it all. She published it socially. She's been threatened to remove it, threatened that it's libelous. And I said, well, I don't think it is. No. Anyway, I just said, we just got to go really loud. So she will be coming on Unity News, hopefully, I think next week or the week after. I've not checked the diary yet. But you'll be seeing it all over my social media because I'm going to get it and run with it. Anyway, so that's what's happening. So I've decided, for any of you that are following me on Twitter, I decided that really the state of affairs is we really need to avoid it. We just got to avoid the National Homicide Service. We really need to step out of it. Now, I do have Bupa, and every year they add another 500 quid on, and it was 6,000 a year. I only have a blood test and a scan. Finally, I was like, I can't keep paying this. It's ridiculous. I don't have the money. So I rang them up today. Anyway, I've got it down to half for now, but I intend to get it further. But what was more interesting was the questions that I was asked. One of the questions that I thought was very interesting, that apparently could make a big difference to how much I pay, was if I was a member of the Law Society. Anyway, I've asked for why that would make a difference. What is this? The thing is, the reason I do hang on to private healthcare as well was, imagine me pitching up in the NHS. I'm likely not to make it out alive. But I will be reporting more on that because I've asked for all the documents that go with it. But it was interesting, and I did get it all online. They wanted to know, did I smoke? I said, no, I don't smoke. What else did they asked me a few other health questions, but they didn't ask me, did I have the Depop shot? They're not asking that, which I find quite bizarre. So I said it all on the tape anyway, to much the guy was laughing. But he didn't know anything. I had mentioned to him, we had a quick chat at the end, he knew nothing about nothing, really. It's like, and also just to say, folks, Twitter, I feel like I'm in an echo chamber now. I like it when I'm getting slagged off. No one's slagging me off anymore. Please get on there and call me a tin hatter, will you? Anyway, so I decided we really need to think about how we're going to stay out of there. How are we going to stay out there? And there's all these doctors from abroad, and I keep interviewing them all on TNT, and everybody's written their books. And I thought, you know what? I need to give some airtime to a Brit. And of course, I've just mentioned her. Simone Plout is the author. She's author of a couple of books, but this book, and forget it if you're a fella in the chat tonight. Don't worry. She wrote this book, and it's fabulous. And I think it's not even a tenner. And she's British. And the money for the book just covers the costs of it. And it's absolutely superb. A health empowerment manual for women ever young. Turn back the clock. Use the silver bullet. She's called the silver bullet because this is her. She's the silver bullet out with the werewolves. And so I thought, why not? Let's get her on and talk about this book. So, Simone, my good mate, welcome to Unity News. And she signed it for me. I didn't even give her the tenner. This book that you wrote, I don't know where you get the time to write it. I really don't. But everybody's writing books and everybody's charging. One of the books I just bought recently was second-handed. It was 60 quid. It's written in. But this book, how much is it? A tenner?
Yeah. I charge £14 if I'm mailing it out to people.
And it's 87, almost 88,000 words.
Well, it's my mission to get this stuff out to people because we need to know. I mean, the NHS, as you say, is not really fit for purpose anymore. And so people need to be empowered to look after their own health. So I'm doing my little bit to try and help that happen.
Well, you're doing, let me just say, and I know you won't mind, for those of you who don't know Simone, as well as being an expert witness in Malaysia, she's been right at the forefront. She was the one who went into court for the young schoolgirl who wouldn't wear a mask. So Simone has been very much not at the front on the big things, but she's at all the stand in the parks. She's done a lot of work. She was the one who took all the testimonies for the report, typed
Not
them,
all of them.
most of them, a lot of them.
I took over 40.
40 testimonies from the vaccine injured, the report that went into the Met. So she's very much been there, as well as writing this book. And I know you won't mind me saying, the little Simone that you see sitting on camera now, she's not just, speaking it and reading it. She's actually lived through that. She's a human being. She's had an eating disorder. She's been very overweight. She's suffered horrific things in her life that a lot of women can't even imagine. The things that have happened to her, which, well, one of them that you told me, and I'm not going to say it on camera, when your first child was born, is the worst thing that could ever happen to any woman, ever, ever, ever. And and here you are. But your book, one of the chapters that I really liked in it, I like it all, is the one where it goes over addiction. We've got is it page 48? Smoke, alcohol, overeating, bulimia, drugs. Well, we know that all of eating disorders has gone through the roof, particularly since lockdown. Drugs, people taking drugs, stress, gambling with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Digital media addiction, children hacking their parents. Actually, how many of you on Unity News wake up in the morning? Let's see it in the chat. Just say yes if it's you. How many of you wake up and before you even do anything, make a cup of tea, kiss your partner, I don't know, say your prayers, think about anything? How many of you, the first thing you do is pick up your phone and connect with Meta? Quick look on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. How many of you, just say yes if it's you, that the first thing you do when your eyes open simultaneously is you pick up your mobile phone? I caught myself doing that and I had to stop it. I had to literally stop it. Somebody said my thought as well. I'm just shocked as I've watched Jeremy Hunt on racing channels for years. Evening, Simone, good evening. Yeah, do any of you do that? Do you pick up your mobile phone? Because it is the Prince of Air. It is literally the bite out the back. Your apple with the bite out the back, the forbidden fruit. All the clues are there. Steve Jobs wouldn't let his children have one. You can go into general settings, legal and regulatory, down to RF exposure. Terrible, absolutely terrible. But shall we have a look at page 48? So is that what made you write this book? You felt like you were doing your bit for humanity, like you've not done enough?
Well, we've all got to play our part. I mean, I've got grandchildren and I want to try and do something to make their world better, because it's not looking great at the moment, as we know.
Yes, Dharma. I noticed that Dr. Malik had posted here, Starmer, saying we need to do something about the anti-vaxxers. Get me in Parliament and I'll pass something. He actually mentioned me by name in that speech and said that I'd said, I was supposed to have said hang the doctors and nurses, but of course I didn't say that. But worrying because they are going to come with the next pandemic. They've got the chicken bird flu vaccines, 3 of them already made. So what are they going to do the next time? I'm not worried as in for me, but like you say, for our kids. So yeah, talk us through that. So smoking, is smoking on the increase? Has it gone down? Are people smoking more?
I think people are vaping. So we're seeing massive increase in vaping, and I'm sure people have heard of popcorn lung, which is a very unpleasant lung damage, which is related to using vaping. But also the polyethylene glycol that's in the vaping liquids. You're setting yourself up for a sensitization reaction to polyethylene glycol, and it's used in a lot of medicines. It's used in the coatings on a lot of, gastro-resistant. If you take a medicine that doesn't want to be absorbed until it's got well past the stomach, then it may have a coating of containing polyethylene glycol. So you're setting yourself up with a potential allergen because of exposure to that substance. I mean, I personally find it very unpleasant when someone's vaping. It makes me feel really breathless.
We only got studies for when I was working on local radio. I covered vaping, and the vaping lobby came after me legally. But I'd got everything I spoke about was from studies. One of the reasons they can turn around and say it's safer than smoking is one reason and one reason only. The studies don't go back far enough because it hasn't been around long enough.
Been around long enough, yeah.
That's all it is. It's much worse than smoking.
Yeah. And it's so, I mean, you see people in the pub surreptitiously using their vape, and you see people on trains sort of doing that. And, it's so easy to get away with doing it in places where it's no longer possible to smoke a cigarette, that you're dealing with probably people are exposing themselves far more than they would be. And we saw a reduction in smoking related health problems immediately after the regulations came in, which prevented people smoking indoors. There was a huge reduction in all the markers, the epidemiological markers for smoking health problems. But that we haven't got the data, as you say, because vaping hasn't been a thing for long enough to actually show. And this is the way that these companies work. They release a new product and then they'll say, oh, well, we'll stop doing that, we'll do this instead. And then you've got another 5 or 10 years lead in time before the damning evidence is going to be evident. The damning evidence is going to show itself.
And then all of the cheaper brands, the cheaper vaping, a lot of it is unregulated, and that's what all the teenagers are buying, the cheap stuff. It's shocking. So you go on to alcohol, and I'm not a drinker at all. I absolutely love Rioja wine. I love the taste of it, but I can't even get down half a glass. I'm too drunk, so I don't.
Well, Rioja is, there are 3 particular wine varieties that are very high in resveratrol, which is a wonderful antioxidant, very good for your skin, very good for your heart. Rioja, Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot are the 3 really high in that particular wonderful antioxidant. So if you are going to ever have even a sip, those are the ones to go for. So good choice.
I and everyone I know as well, I only have to have a quarter of a glass and I've got a banging headache. So there's something in there that's not good. It will be the pesticides. However, single malt whiskey, different methylation pathway. There are loads of studies showing that if you had one single malt whiskey for 5 days, just one a night, it has health benefits. But again, I'm not a drinker. It's so delicious. It's very easy to sip one, knock one back with a cup of peppermint tea, and then want another. And before you know it, and it doesn't even make me drunk. So I thought, that would be, I just don't drink it. It's in the cupboard. There's 3 different very expensive bottles of it because that's the only thing people would buy me. But I can see why it's very easy for people to slip into, without realizing it, having an alcohol problem. And they're not realizing, half a bottle every night is a lot of wine on a woman. And that's what women are doing, aren't they? That blokes.
Well, yeah. And of course, it's readily available in the supermarket. There are often special offers. And, the bottle you know, you pour a glass and then you think, well, I'll just have one more glass, and you know, before you know it, oh well, I might as well finish the bottle. And it's very easy for it to go, you know, gradually build up, which is what's happening with a lot of people. And of course, during the 4 years of the last 4 years, people have had, you know, it's been more difficult to socialize. A lot of pubs have shut down, so drinking at home has been probably happening a lot more than it did in the past.
Mm.
Yeah, we're
I
seeing.
saw a lady, I saw a lady on the checkout. She's not watching. She's married to a Met police officer, and we were talking about this. And she said, "Oh, she was telling me she'd got abdominal pain. She was drinking a bottle every night, and the way we did it with her was, I said to her, why don't you buy the miniatures and have a miniature every night? You know, that's only a quarter of a bottle." And that's what she did. And she said that absolutely worked a treat. So she'd cut her wine consumption down. What is that? Quarter of a bottle in a one of those. I don't know, but she'd cut it down. But she said to me, it's just a habit that I finish work, because she worked in the evenings. It's become a habit. So you've got a whole section on this one. You know, take milk thistle to support the liver. Drink a glass of water between each alcoholic drink. I know some people say put some sparkling water in your wine and make it into a spritzer, which is a bit gay, fellas. Oh, did I really say that? But yeah, you've got that. Now, the next bit, which I think is really interesting, because when you consider 1 in 4 people now are overweight, I think
Yeah,
it's great, and 1 in 10, I think it's greater than that actually, is morbidly obese. The
yeah,
next section is very interesting, because I
yeah,
hear people say all the time to me, "Oh, you know, I'm not overweight, I'm the right weight." And they're not. Most people are fat.
yeah,
Most people are carrying extra fat, which increases the estrogen level. When you think that the size, after, if a size 8 after the war, if you held up a size 8 in Marks and Spencer's compared with a size 8 now, you'd be surprised. You might think you're an 8, but you're probably not. You're probably a 12. But that,
mm,
you believe it's an 8 because they've made the sizes bigger in the
yeah,
supermarket. And
absolutely.
shocking how many people think that they are not overweight, but they are.
Yeah, and so many of our clothing nowadays has got elasticated waists. So it you know, yeah, so that you they're comfortable, even though you know, you may be getting big around the middle. And of course, many people have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, so they may be quite trim, but they may have a triglyceride buildup in the liver. And if you've got it in your liver, you may well have it in your pancreas as well. So it's blocking your liver function and blocking your pancreatic function and heading you down a very, very dark pathway in terms of your health outcome. And some people may be a normal weight and still have that problem.
Mm,
So that is very worrying as well. And that one is caused largely by eating processed carbohydrates and eating sugar. And particularly the one really dreaded one is the high fructose corn syrup, which is it's derived from corn. The corn is subsidized. It's got a side serving of pesticide in it, usually glyphosate, which is a metal chelator, which is going to take and also damages your gut flora. So it's a really bad product. And that high fructose corn syrup, it's very different to the fructose that you get in fruit. The fructose in fruit has got, you know, it's got fiber around it. It slows down. It doesn't get straight into your bloodstream like the high fructose corn syrup that's in, let's say, a drink or a dessert or a yogurt or something like that. That's going to go straight into the bloodstream and straight into your liver. And the reason it turns into this fat is if you take 3 fructose molecules, they then get sort of conjugated together to make a tri or 3 glyceride sugar. Glyceride is a term for sugar. So you've got 3 sugars together become a fat, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and also it can spill into the pancreas as well. So that's where it comes from. So avoid high fructose corn syrup. But if you go into the supermarket, virtually every food that's sold has got that stuff in it.
It has even Marks and Spencer, sour cream, coleslaw, everything. Listen, we're not sitting here as, we don't do any of that. We try. But I like a bit of chocolate, and every now and again, and I try not to, I'm not quite the binger that I used to be. But I mean, every now and again, I'll have a bit of cheese, but it's not all the time. I try not to do it all the time. And I've learned actually that when I love a bag of crisps. I can't have them anymore. The joint pain that goes on for days, it actually will keep me awake at night. So I don't do it. Yeah, I just don't do it. And I can't use my hands if, and I don't do it. So I'm really sensitive to all of it now. Drugs, go on to, somebody mentioned in the chat actually about makeup. Yep. Lead, 60% of lipsticks on the US market contain lead, which is a new but you can actually get on here and buy Tropic, Katrina Leonet's link, Gold Eagle. There we go, Tropic. It's got men's stuff as well, because men like to wear that stuff now. Well, sort of men. Don't come to me in makeup. My vagina will snap shut. Actually, I don't do that anyway, but I'm just talking about if I was about to get married and a bloke pulled out any makeup, let me tell you, it'd be out of action forever. It would be such a turn off. I like a man to be man, and I don't agree with sunscreen either. That's just me.
No, I don't go to sunscreen either. I tell you what I do instead of sunscreen. I eat lots and lots of red pepper, and I don't wear sunglasses.
Karen, apple juice, yeah.
I look at the sun, and it gets that sunlight gets through my eyes into my pineal gland, tells my skin to produce melanin, and then I get tanned very quickly. And also I eat lots and lots of red pepper, which then gives my skin this wonderful orangey glow, which is healthful and also protects my skin. The other thing I have is lots of astaxanthin in my diet. I eat wild salmon once a week. You can also get a vegan version of it. In fact, I've just ordered some vegan from Red Algae today, some supplements. Because the wild salmon has got so expensive in the shops now.
Carrot and apple juice. Carrot juice is full of vitamins A, B, C, beta carotene, antioxidants, a couple of drops of iodine every day. And I go really dark. And I didn't used to. I go really, really dark. But you should always get the sun in your eyes, because it's that makes your skin. So, so moving on to drugs, illicit drugs.
Well, I think I'm going to take us back for a moment. I'm going to interrupt you and steer us back to this food thing. Because for some people, for some very unlucky people, sugar of any kind is literally a narcotic. It is highly addictive. And if you have a little bit, then your choice, your freedom of choice about whether you have any more is literally taken away. And we need to recognize that sugar in all its forms, or particularly the synthetic versions, are literally a narcotic. So, you can have an addiction to sugar. It's very, very possible. And so many people who are overweight may well be dealing with an addictive substance that's hiding in the tomato sauce. It's hiding in the chili sauce. It's hiding in the salami. It's hiding in the smoked salmon. It's hiding in soup. It's hiding in
it's everything. They put it in sour cream, in Waitrose. Can you imagine the SWAT team coming in because you've got some salsa in your hand out of M&S and it's got sugar in? But that's the point. Is it's so addictive. It costs the NHS millions annually. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes. It is the biggest, along with alcohol. They let you drink, they let you eat sugar. They serve sugary foods in the foyers. So can you imagine them doing a drug bust? What are you going in for, lads? She's got a bag of that white acid stuff. And
She's got
she's
Haribo. The woman's got some Haribo hidden about her person.
Yeah. And I
Absolutely.
saw, what was his name? What's his name? Mysterious Girl. And he flew an aeroplane across Brighton's seafront with a sign at the back saying, "Get vaccinated. Peter Andrex. Toilet paper for wiping one's ass." I mean, Peter Andre, do beg your pardon. I was mixing up with someone else there. He married, after Katie, he married a doctor, and they've got 3 children together. And she is, I don't know when she, I don't know when she, yeah, someone's saying they bring chemo patients cakes. They serve them cakes and chocolate and biscuits. But Peter Andre married this very beautiful, beautiful girl, Emily, and they've got 3 children together, and they've got those other 2 beautiful children from Katie, beautiful, stunning kids. But she's there on camera as a doctor. I don't. She's every now and again wears the kit, so I don't know when she's got her Instagram spectacular. I just watch it so that I can feel inadequate. You know, she's putting pictures up, pegging out 2 pairs of boxer shorts. I think, is that it with 3 kids? You know, with mine, it was just like lines and lines of laundry. But she's making cakes, and she's putting all this shit in the bowl for the children. I mean, it's literally like feeding your kids heroin.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And heroin and sugar are made in exactly the same way. They are an extract of a plant material that is then evaporated and purified, and you take all the good stuff away and you just leave the active concentrated chemical crystals. And that's exactly the same. I mean, with sugar cane, the good stuff is called blackstrap molasses, and people used to eat that. They used to have it in
full of iron. Full of iron if you're iron deficient anemia. It's wonderful.
Chromium. It's full of magnesium. It's full of all the goodies. But it's taken out of the sugar, and then you just get left with this white menace, the white sugar crystals, which are really, really bad for us. They are a narcotic substance, effectively, and that is driving the obesity epidemic that we're seeing, the misery. And of course, for a lot of people who had a traumatic childhood, they may have reached for the sweeties as a comfort when they were going through neglect or abuse as little children, and developed that addiction as young children. And so for anybody who is struggling with this subject, there is help out there. It's free of charge. There is Overeaters Anonymous. It's a fellowship rather like Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's free to join and free to participate, and you may wish to access that help. They've got a website, and if you just search Overeaters Anonymous, you will find that there is help out there for people. So please feel you're on your own.
Overeaters Anonymous, amazing. Somebody said they've switched to honey. Yeah, me too. Now, something that both Simone and I, we have polished off at my table a great big piece of mature goat gouda. When I made this vegetarian moussaka, we ate the whole thing. And we both agree we can't have even almond butter. I love it.
No, I won't have it in the house.
If I buy 2 jars, I'll eat them both in 2 nights. I'll have one little jar with a spoon and a cup of tea. I've got an addictive personality. What, are you going to sit and bite on that? That looks really...
No. I'm showing off. I grew this cauliflower in my garden, and I actually, there were 2 of them, but it was so delicious. I ate one of them for lunch.
Wow. And folks, when you eat a cauliflower, the enzymes for digesting it are in the stalk. So if you're not eating the stalk and then wondering why it makes you fart, that's why. You need to eat the whole thing.
On this cauliflower, and I cut it off the plant late last night, because I go out on snail patrol with a head torch late at night looking for snails and slugs, and I don't kill them anymore. I put them in my compost heap to help process the compost. So
Or
I've
like
learned
how
that
you
on an
corner it. No, I've got some Crocs with lights on the front. I know it's
right on the front of the Crocs. I love that.
it's hard to believe. They're a pair of my son's old Crocs, and they've got lights on the front. I can set them onto flash. I can set them onto epileptic seizure mode, or I can set them on full beam. And it's when I go to the bin, because I hate when you feel that crunch and you've killed something. But yeah, I've got a charred chicory growing, and
Fabulous.
I go out with my my lit Croc. It is quite sad. Is it any
Anyway,
wonder?
I have to tell you, this was the best cauliflower I have ever eaten, and the stalks particularly were just so yummy. They were.
As you can see, Simone is the South Fork, the Dallas, the Ewings, the posh one, with her greenhouse that costs thousands. My greenhouse was about 500-600 quid. I've had to put weights in each corner with wire. I've had to hold it down. I've even had to put duct tape all around every panel to stop it taking off in the wind.
Yeah, but you have to remember, I live right on the cliff top. I'm so close. I'm near the offshore wind farm near Brighton, and the wind where I live is so strong. I mean, you can literally be blown away in that wind. So if I had the greenhouse outdoors, it would have ended up in the next door neighbour's garden well before now.
And interestingly, isn't it interesting? Those wind farms go round when there's no wind and the trees are moving. That's because they're going round because of oil. It's all a lie. But anyway, yes, it's this book is so good. Folks, you know what? You should buy this for your mothers, your wives. She's local. It's a tenner. But I like the fact you've covered. I don't listen. I've spent time with you. I don't know when you get time to write this. She's got absolutely everything in it, so you'll become a little expert at absolutely everything. Well, the table, when you go to page 113 on, and you've got everything. You've got the substances: boron, calcium, chloride, what they're needed for, what happens if you've not got enough, what it's found in, what the dosage is. People, this is so simple, and it's all in the same book that's got every other bit of information. You can't get a book for a tenner with everything in it. So if you've suddenly for instance, if I eat chocolate, I start to get eye twitches, face twitches, and it's lack of magnesium, because every molecule of sugar, that white acid poison, uses up 56 molecules of magnesium. So what I have to do as an offset is then eat like 10,000 milligrams of magnesium in one go over and then do it for a few days to stop it. But one of the things, if you've got symptoms, you've just got to read in here, have a read through, and you'll find your symptoms, and then you'll know what to do.
What you could do, Kate, is you could sit in an Epsom salt bath while you eat your chocolate. So you're absorbing the magnesium through your skin, and then you wouldn't be, but better still to have chocolate with no sugar in it.
Yeah, but that's horrible.
Yeah, but hang on.
I'm going to admit it. I'm not going to fall off the perch, but I am human. If somebody said to me, what do you prefer? Milk nut chocolate or dark nut chocolate, I'll say milk every time. And there's, Cadbury's cream eggs. What are those other things? I've not had one in about a decade. Walnut whips. There was only one way to eat them. You bite the walnut off and you stick your tongue in the top and you eat it like an aardvark, like an anteater. Everybody I know eats it the same way. Lord knows what's in them. And Tonics tea cakes, marshmallows, disgusting things. But I can see why people eat them. Once you have one, I see, if I had a biscuit out of a container, I'd eat the lot.
Yeah, well, look, if you were to take some tahini and mix in some powdered cacao nibs and add in some non-glycemic sweetener like monk fruit powder, and then dip your apples in it, that is absolutely scrummy, and that will actually satisfy your craving for chocolate without giving you the addictive sugar or the blocking of the, because there's good stuff in chocolate. It's just if you have it with dairy in
Yeah,
it,
there
you're
is. There is.
blocking the absorption of the goodies.
It was
So
called. I think it was the food of the gods. It's an aphrodisiac because of the I did a video on it years ago. Someone's saying here that getting drunk gets you pregnant. Well, if
it
it
does. It definitely does.
yeah, if
It
it gets you pregnant,
does.
that's fine, but don't keep drinking once you're
Yeah,
pregnant.
no, no. But if you don't want to be pregnant, then obviously, drink in private, or don't drink.
Like
But
drinking on your own, isn't that really bad as well? Drinking on your own. But anyway, I wanted to give you some some promotion for this book because it
well,
is
thank you ever so much. I really appreciate
superb.
it.
It's superb. I love this bit, gambling. And let's not forget porn addiction. Oh
Yep.
my gosh, ladies, I can tell you the amount of women I know who's even young men in their early 20s can neither get it up, or if they can get it up, they can't maintain an erection because they're watching porn. And I mean, at that age, they should be up all night and fainting in the morning. It's ridiculous. But I'm hearing ever increasing young women. I'm not an advocate of sleeping out, outside of marriage and everything. No, I'm just not. But I hear young women in their late teens and 20s, teenagers, saying their boyfriends can't keep it up because they're watching porn. How
Yep.
outrageous.
It is an addictive activity, like gambling and media addiction and some of these other things. And the trouble is, when something is an addiction, I had it explained to me very, very in a very clever manner. When you use pornography, we have human needs and we have human wants. So what we need is connection. We need closeness, tenderness, intimacy, connection. But our wants are for sexual excitement and arousal. But by separating the need from the want, we get the want satisfied, but the need is still there because we haven't touched it. But the want, you need it more exciting next time and more exciting next time because it's tapping into a different neurotransmitter pathway. But getting your needs met, the closeness, the cuddles, you get oxytocin, that's the bonding molecule. That one makes you feel good. It boosts your immune system. It has huge number of health benefits. But pornography has no health benefits at all. And unfortunately, it just desensitizes you to the pleasures of your connection with your partner. And so you've
And
ended up
destroys your relationship. It destroys relationships.
destroys the relationship. And
Somebody's asking here, I live in Spain, how do I get the book?
well, I would need to charge you for postage to Spain, but I can also do a digital copy. So I will, if we can post my website, then you'll find a link to get hold of me. So that's
Gold Eagle, have you got Simone's website there?
longevityworks.com. That's the one. Yeah, if you contact me through my website, and if you're in Spain, I can flog you a digital copy. Because if you send stuff out to, thank you very much, producer. If I send things to Spain, they charge ridiculous amounts of duty. I have family in Spain, and I know what goes on. I can no longer say.
For me, I like the fact that you're a Brit, and I like the fact that I know you, and I know. Just to say, I'm just going to tell you this about Simone. No matter how busy she is, let me tell you what comes out of this woman's mouth it's been pretty tough in my household for 7 months with my daughter and the courts, which I will, oh my word, when I can talk to you, and someone was there. And the first thing when you tell her, when everything's going wrong, and the first words out of her mouth is, how can I help you? What can I do to help you? She doesn't just go, I'm sorry to hear that, or ring you up just to get all the bad stuff so that then she can feel her life. She's the first one that goes, How can I help you? If she's ever near my house, she rings me up and goes, I'm in Lewis, I'm shopping. What do you need? I'm in Waitrose. What can I get? So, you know, I think she absolutely deserves people to get her book and read it. Simone, before I don't know, is Stuart in the house as well? I don't know whether he made it for us.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, Stuart's here. Simone, don't go away. It's wonderful what you've written. Absolutely wonderful. And the book is, I'll get Simone on again. You've got it's got every single thing in it that you need in one book. It really has. And don't be put off that it says, you know, for women, this is a lovely book to buy your mom. Stop buying your mother's crap on Mother's Day. Boxes of chocolates. Just get it this. It's a tenner. What a nice Mother's Day gift. Nice Christmas present. It's good for young women as well. It's got everything in it. So, Simone, thank you so much. Anyway, I know you all love Stuart, my surrogate husband, and ex-Olympic skier, who was the one.
Wow.
Yeah. It's all a lie about Eddie the Eagle. It was Stuart and his brother that were there. But Stuart's now our political correspondent. So, Stuart, Keir Starmer, tell us what's going to happen. What's the latest? What's happening with it all?
It's really interesting.
Fills me in, literally, over the phone.
Already the Tory press are already calling his followers stormtroopers, and that they marched into Parliament. Yeah, and it's amazing. You say something that happened from the Nuremberg trials.
Well, they're wearing
right?
jack boots as they marched.
Yeah, and misquoted. They can say it, and nobody prosecutes them, chases them down through Parliament and arrests them, and they're allowed to say this. But as soon as you mention the word, Nuremberg trials, you didn't. I mean, they are beyond reproach when they use this terminology. You say one word about Nuremberg, which is a matter of historical fact, and that doctors unfortunately were hung, but they did heinous crimes, and people, and the same happened to nurses, and they were hung, but there were only a few of them, and a lot of them escaped.
Karl Brandt was one of them. Hitler's. Yeah. And
Dr. Buhler and Dr. Brandt were the two that were given the euthanasia order by Hitler in September 1939. And they were the ones that carried it out. But they were supposed to do an examination of the individuals first and then decide if they were unworthy of life. But that order came from the Fuhrer, and they responded to that. But obviously that was eugenics. But we've had similar eugenics in this country. Just to pick up a point from Simone, when you grow your own food, you are actually like printing money. You know exactly where the food comes from. You know it doesn't have the glyphosate on it. And literally the cost of food is rising. Grow your own food. And if you just buy a smaller plate, that's my diet. And that is, instead of having a 12-inch plate, drop yourself down, not to a 9-inch, but a 7-inch side plate, and reduce the quantity. So if you go like you always say, the first 2 aisles in the supermarket, which is the fruit and veg, focus on that. But whatever you can grow at home, you know exactly where it's come from, and you get tremendous pleasure as well. That's a lovely cauliflower, by the way, beautiful cauliflower, nice and white too.
Stuart, Simone, what about the cost effectiveness of it? But I'm not a fan of eating 3 times a day. It makes me. It's fuel for me. And Simone has watched me. I literally nosebag. When I start eating, I eat very fast and a huge quantity, but I only eat once a day. Is that okay?
It's not ideal. It's not ideal. I think Simone will tell you that eating it out during the day would be better for your body. Definitely, I would suggest you do that and keep your energy levels up, because otherwise you're overloading.
My energy's there, but I just have never been a fan of eating 3 meals a day. It just doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me.
No.
But Stuart, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to pick up on this political point. There's an interesting thing that's just come from Oxford University, and it's research into GP practices. It only came out a couple of hours ago, and they've had a big consultation today on it. And what they basically said is that the GP practice service is on the point of failure. And it's very interesting. The doctors are leaving in their droves. They refer to unprofessionalism. They're lowering the standards, they believe, through the use of the physician associates. And they are following algorithmic medicine, and they're all being told about not having direct contact with the patients. And now there's a bit of a kickback from the doctors saying, no, we must, you have to be able to see the pallor of the person's face. There are other things that you pick up when you're sitting in front of a patient. Now, the Labour has said, Wes Streeting has said that he wants to bring back the family GP, but we're so far removed from that right now. Ideally, yes, that's what needs to happen. You need to have continuity of contact with your GP practice. I mean, in the old days, the GP used to know everybody in the family, the grandparent, the parent, and the child, and they knew everything about them, and they'd seen them throughout their life. So they knew what their baseline health conditions were like. Well, as soon as they saw them, they'd sort of think, well, they didn't look like that when I last saw them. So they picked those things up. The very first thing you need to do is to see your patient. I mean, any good doctor will tell you that. And the same with the nurse. You look at your patient first. When you go into a room, you look at their pallor. Are they pale? They're flushed? Those sort of things. So, it would be wonderful if they could bring it back, but you've had 14 years of going in the opposite direction, and this algorithmic medicine whereby they're following flow charts and these nice protocols. And I want to bring in here the fact that there was a eugenics university, Monash University in Australia, and they helped to write our nice guidelines. Now, they've got a terrible history of eugenics over there, and obviously Britain took it to Australia. But it's shocking that this is what is happening in this country, and all of those people that are members of the big charities that have got any condition, whether it's autism or any heart conditions, every single person that's a member of those organisations was put on through NG 159 onto a clinical frailty scale of 5. And that then meant that if they went into hospital and they didn't improve by themselves without any medical intervention, they could then potentially be put on end-of-life treatment. That is the country we live in. The thing that I want to hear from this government is that they reverse that, get rid of the Lansley Review, and they need to get rid of this algorithmic medicine. If they really want to keep the health of our nation as our priority, then they need to rekindle our original GP doctors and family doctors, and they need to focus on getting everybody. They're cutting out the disabled as well. They're doing this on a routine basis. That is eugenics. We need to stop this. I don't believe that the majority of doctors are eugenicists. Unfortunately, some of the people in Whitehall who are running this are, and the doctors need to step up here, and I would hope that they would all stand out against eugenics. And just purely by chance, just to finally link this in, Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, he's made a statement that his own wife 32 years ago was told to abort their child. She has dyspraxia, but she's 32, she's successful. Other people, there are film stars that have got dyspraxia. Daniel Radcliffe, the actor, he's got dyspraxia. Carla Delevingne, actress, model, she has got dyspraxia. It's not the end of her life. It doesn't affect your intelligence. It doesn't necessarily have to be overly painful. It does affect movement, balance, and things like that. That's accepted. But if we take these people out of life, you are losing human beings. And if you start terminating human beings at birth, that is eugenics. We need to stop that. And I'd hope to get a clear statement from the government.
That's actually happening, and they're pushing to terminate at term. I mean, how anyone can say that is, it's just disgusting. But anyway, I don't know what to say about that. So the GP practices thing is quite interesting because we've already had Stuart on talking about how we're seeing these physician associates coming in, but of course, even the doctors now are complaining about it, aren't they? They've showed that they've got vote of no confidence in the GMC. Well, a few hundred of them have, when there's thousands on there. Stuart, of course, that NHS mandate and the way everything's going, the whole plan was that you wouldn't have trained nurses. You don't need them. You wouldn't need trained doctors because, of course, especially now we've got Keir Starmer in. I'll stop saying that, Keir Starmer. Who you're seeing all the same old faces coming in. Tony Blair is from.
You can call him Fear Starmer.
Yeah.
Fear.
Yeah.
Seriously, what you've got to think, the word that they use, which rang out from this latest report, which has only come out today, a couple of hours ago, is the word dehumanized. If we are to be a modern society, we have to become humanized. We have become dehumanized, particularly in the last 4 years, and they have been operating this population triage. So I hope that there's going to be debates in the House and by the British Medical Association. I would like to hear it from the GMC, but I don't think we're going to get it from there. But the British Medical Association need to really step up to the plate here and have hard discussions. We should not be practicing eugenics in this country. We've been doing it to the elderly, but they're also doing it to the disabled. And all of these charities, some of them may have done it unwittingly, some of them may have been slightly coerced, but they've all gone along with it, all of them. 20 of the top charities in this country put all of their members onto this cohort 6. And that needs to be abolished within medicine immediately. And any doctors that are listening, any nurses that are listening, if you ever hear that phrase, cohort 6 is the group that will get put on end of life.
But these, the thing is that of course, that's what I was about to say. The nurses are being replaced with nurses that are not saying anything. They're not going to say anything because they'll get kicked out. It is actually turning into quite an ugly place to go, and it's go via the NHS at your own peril.
Can I just bring in the point that I sent you something yesterday? It was German snipers in World War II refused to shoot a Scottish piper as he came up the beach because they thought that he was mentally disabled. The fact that he carried on playing the pipes and he didn't falter, he carried on walking up. Snipers, during the heat of battle, had compassion for somebody that they thought was psychologically challenged. Yet we have nurses that are quite happy to administer a lethal injection to an entirely innocent person without any real pressure on them. They're not in a war, and walk up and give them a lethal injection.
Yeah,
they do this, and they'll also kill babies as well, and at birth. Now this has got to stop, and we want all the good doctors and the good nurses. There are good nurses. I'm talking to one right now, obviously, and I'm talking to a nice doctor as well. And all of these really nice doctors and nurses need to come together and say, we do not support any of this. We need to stop this policy. Because in this country, if we don't show compassion for our elderly and our disabled, as far as I'm concerned, we're not a civilized society.
No, I totally agree. And I think I think what really I'm a great fan of you. Unfortunately, going back to it's an addiction, but it's not an addiction. But I think Simone will get what I'm trying to say here. It's been shown that once something is ingrained in the psyche of people, and don't forget they use all these behavioral sciences on people. So when they want to get a lie out, like dare I say it, no one is ever allowed to question the official Holocaust story. We're not denying that people died. But there have been lots and lots of work put forward by very talented and educated people about how many people died, where they died, of what they succumbed to death from, the actual buildings. And there's many, many questions, but the point is no one is allowed to debate that. So and that whole thing about Hitler, once that becomes ingrained, even when you try to show people evidence, like Ukraine, for instance, even when you show them evidence, they cannot and will not believe it, even if you showed them absolute, unequivocal proof. And the only way that finally becomes erased is when that generation dies out and you start with the next generation. So I'll leave it to everyone to think about. I personally don't believe that you can mend the NHS. I think a new system has to be created and needs to be driven by the public. New nurses as well as the old ones with the right sentiment, but new trainees coming in who see it as a vocation, who are taught from the beginning on how to actually avoid and reverse disease and look after their communities. What do you think? Yeah? No?
Yeah, absolutely. I think also preventative medicine is crucial, and going back to the food, that's your starting point, and also lowering the obesity, which has to be a priority for the country. If you look at any pictures of people on the beach in the 1960s and 70s, they all look like models do now, and they're all the men.
It's like beached Wales Central. Anyway, look, it's time.
Let you go.
So no, don't go yet. Simone, final word. And just to say, the gentleman in Spain wants to pay for a hard copy. He's more than happy to pay the postage. Okay. So it's final word from the lovely Simone Plout, the silver bullet, and we'll get her back on because, like I say, I love having her trapped in my car because she's one of the most. She's one of those people that they always say, don't they, if you want to really know if you like somebody, go on holiday with them. And I always think I couldn't go on holiday with those people. They do my head in. I could quite happily go on holiday with Simone for several weeks and thoroughly enjoy myself. My jaw might ache because it was just yak.
Thank you, Kate. Well, I feel the same way about you. I would suggest that we get growing. Even if you've only got a windowsill, you can still grow microgreens. Get growing your own food. You can have a miniature tomato plant and grow a few tomatoes. Get growing food because we need to be growing our own food. It's vitally important.
Fantastic. And in your book, of course, it will tell us where you find the food to alleviate the symptoms you have. And that's page 105 onwards, folks. It's all in there. Stuart, lovely Stuart, my surrogate husband, who keeps me sane, who rings me most mornings and tells me all the dread. And generally, I'm on the toilet. Having done my coffee enema, yes, I like to share that with you. And before I go in the shower, Stuart rings me. Sometimes he rings me and I go, I've got to go because I've just put my coffee enema in and I can't talk. And he doesn't get grossed out by it. He goes, oh, all right then. And anyway, but Stuart, final word from you. How can we
laughter is the best medicine.
So we have to laugh at Keir Starmer. How are we going to get through this government that none of us voted in and they're nutters?
Well, if you've got a new MP, go and speak to them immediately as soon as you can and get them on the right track. They need some guidance and they need the public to tell them what we want rather than what they have as an agenda. Because at the end of the day, it's our vote.
Speak to your MPs. Start doing it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So please do support Unity News Network. I know that David has lost some followers, but you know what I like about David? He doesn't have to dress it up with a daisy stuck in the top. He's actually stayed totally true to his word. And I watched quite a lot of their all-nighter that he did with Dr. Neil McRae. He doesn't have to be current or get followers. That's what I like about David Clues. He just stays in line and he's not gone with whatever flag you're meant to show next. He didn't go with the whole, you don't see all over my Twitter children being murdered in Palestine. I know it's going on. It's horrific. It shouldn't be going on. But I also know about the Balfour Agreement and everything else. You don't see me supporting and saying, oh, I support Israel, because there's atrocities everywhere, and I don't condone any of it. But there's no point me putting that on and dividing more. My thing is about how do we get through not dying at the hands of our own medical service under the guise of its healthcare. That's my thing. But anyway, you've been a fabulous audience. Please do stick something in the donation pot, keep it running, and I will see you all next week. If there's any topic you want me to cover, I have actually got Nick Colostrum coming back on. I've got a lot of other guests coming on. You can join me on TNT. I've also got Andy Wakefield coming on TNT. Lots and lots of guests, different people coming on. going over and over topics that will help you. It's not just all diet, and the website is virtually there. And I will be having, I think it's the first week of October, it will be in East Grinstead. There will be a live event right opposite the train station where you can come and learn avoiding and reversing disease. Lots and lots at that event. There'll be so much you can do. Even there'll be all sorts. I'll be announcing it. So you can finally, I'm going to do a couple a year, and there'll be lots of speakers from the UK and live over the internet. And Gold Eagle doesn't know it yet, but he'll be managing it all. We'll all be there. Anyway, he'll be staying in my guest room. Anyway, look, you've been a fab audience, and I will see you all next week. Simone, thank you so much. Stuart, thank you so much.
Bye.
Goodbye, all.
Bye.